What's up, guys? James Carter TV continuing my 2016 NFL Draft recaps, and today we are talking about the Indianapolis Colts. And man, I look around, I look at like Gil Brandt of NFL.com or maybe some NBC articles or whatnot, and everyone's talking about the best draft classes of 2016 NFL Draft. And I hear the Tennessee Titans, and I'm a Tennessee Titans fan, and I don't understand that. And I see the Jacksonville Jaguars, that's been a consensus, and I agree and all of that. And, during the draft, you get a feel for teams, and you're like, wow, this team's doing really good. But this is one of those teams where I looked at and I was like, hey, these guys doing a good job. And no one is having this conversation, and I'm really surprised because the Indianapolis Colts, I believe, did a really good job with this 2016 NFL Draft, and I can't believe it because Ryan Grigson is a guy that, let's face it, has a horrible track record when it comes to the 2016 or when it comes to NFL drafts prior, when it comes to free agencies prior. I mean, he's been a bad general manager up to this point. So coming into the 2016 NFL Draft, I expected the same, but it appears as if finally this year, he has his whole, he's under the hot seat. I mean, yes, they re-signed or whatever they did. I don't care. He's on the hot seat, and he needs to produce, and I think he did it. Let's start by talking about their first round pick, the 18th pick overall, Ryan Kelly out of Alabama. When you look at this pick, it's all about protecting Andrew Luck, and I also believe helping out the run game. Now, the run game was actually the best it's been since Vic Ballard was doing what he was doing back in 2012 when they had Frank Gore running around last season, because when you look at the Colts offense in 2015, you had Matt Hasselbeck that was pretty much a game manager for this football team, throwing to T.Y. Hilton and whatnot, but they relied on Frank Gore, and Frank Gore produced. But with that said, you can still improve upon the run blocking. And this Ryan Kelly pick also it does that. Not only protects Andrew Luck, he also allows the run game to develop more, especially when you have an up the middle in between the tackles runner like Frank Gore. He's going to help out there. Ryan Kelly, a guy that wins off his strength and his toughness and his power. Not a big finesse guy coming out of that Alabama system, but he opened up holes for Derrick Henry. He's going to open up holes for Frank Gore, and he's going to protect Andrew Luck. And when you look at the possibilities for the Colts here, I think this was damn near the best one. I would have taken Darren Lee out of Ohio State. I think he's a better prospect than Ryan Kelly. Ryan Kelly was probably in the 20s of my big board. Darren Lee was in the teens, so I think Darren Lee is just a better player. So that's why the Colts don't get the rare A plus here. But I think they did a damn good job, and they get an A for me. Again, they get an A for me. Some people expect Ryan Kelly to be a Pro Bowler, one of the best centers in the NFL. I'm not going to say that, although I do believe you've gotten a good starting center for 5 years at least. He's going to get that fifth-year option, I'm sure. And then from there, he'll be a good starter. Is he a Pro Bowler? I don't know. He could be, but I think regardless, he will start and he will be good. I'm comfortable saying that. We move on to their second-round pick, free safety TJ Green out of Clemson. And yes, he could play cornerback, but he's a free safety. And this is a guy that a little bit unheard of. Some people are not grading this pick very highly because they don't know who he is, because he wasn't a big name, because many people had him pegged as a fourth rounder. But to me, this guy was a second rounder all the way. In fact, when you look at Keanu Neal, who I will get into later on today when I do my Falcons recap, I like TJ Green better than Keanu Neal. Now, Keanu Neal is more of a strong safety, and TJ Green is more of a free safety, but Keanu Neal is the guy that went 17th pick overall. TJ Green goes all the way down to 57. This is a guy that ran a 4.3 440, has pretty good, really good height, honestly, at 6'2". I know some people don't like their free safeties to be too tall, all because then they'll be too upright and whatnot, but I have no problem with that. He's a guy that also put up nice vertical numbers, nice broad jump numbers, so you're talking about a guy with good height, good hops, and good speed. Now I know that he can cover a good amount of the field from play to play, as long as he can see things develop. Now, if he can see things develop, if he can develop those instincts and whatnot, that football intelligence, that football IQ, once he sees things develop, he's going to have the height, the size, and the jumping ability to go from sideline to sideline and make plays, break up passes, intercept passes. It's all going to be about the mental game for TJ Green. And he's a guy that only started, for the most part, really only started 1 year at Clemson, did not start many games before this past 2015 season. So he's going to have to develop those instincts, and those are some things that I don't see him being potentially elite at yet, but I do believe there's so much value here. And even right now, he's a good safety, and I think he could be really good because, again, of that height, speed, and just jumping ability. And then also the tackling needs to be fixed a little bit, needs to be a more physical tackle. I mean, a tackler, he has some pretty good size on him. Maybe he could build a little bit more to his frame, but I really like the upside here, and I give this pick an A-. We move on to the third round pick, offensive tackle LaRaven Clark out of Texas Tech. This guy started 3 straight years at left tackle for the Texas Tech Red Raiders. It was blocking the blind side of Patrick Mahomes and whoever quarterbacks they had before that, and he did a damn good job at that. And he has that prototypical size you look for: 6'5", 6'6", 315 pounds, long arms. He has the strength and the power. He was on the left side and he did a damn good job at that. And now you're telling me we can move him to the right side. We can pair him with Anthony Costanzo on the left, this guy on the right side. I thought LaRaven Clark was going to go in the second round. He falls all the way down to the third. Prototypical size and strength. I love this pick here sitting in the third round. I give this pick an A. We move on to the fourth round, 116th pick overall. Defensive tackle Hassan Ridgeway out of Texas. This is a guy that didn't quite produce as much as we expected him to. I mean, you look at this guy, you look at his strength, you expect him to really put up more numbers than he put. And this was also due to some injury concerns. You know, Texas has been a joke for quite some time. I mean, Charlie Strong has been, rebuilding them, but there's been all kinds of instability there. And I don't think they were able to really get the potential out of him, because I think this guy has really good potential to be not only a start at the next level, but a really good start at the next level. Can the Colts get that out of him? Can they get that consistency? Because that's his biggest problem right now, being consistent from play to play. I'm not sure. I like the potential though, and I give it a B+. We move on. Fourth round again, probably my least favorite pick from this Colts draft. We have inside linebacker Antonio Morrison out of Florida. This is a guy that when you look at the 2013 summer 2013, had huge issues. Got arrested twice. First time for barking at a police dog or something like that. And the second time I can't even remember but 2 times within the span of about 4 weeks. Since then, though, has been clean. So since that was 3 years ago, I'll forgive him and I'll say, okay, you have shown a good track record of being clean now. But when you look at his play on the field and you look at his numbers first, his pro day numbers, ran a 5.1 40. I mean, I couldn't even believe this. I mean, this is a guy that's an inside linebacker running a time I would expect from an offensive center. So he's not as fast as you'd want him to be. Put up some nice statistics at Florida, but has some injury concerns behind him as well. He's a leader on the football field, a guy that could rally the troops, that's for sure, but isn't very good in coverage at all. You're going to have to take him off the field on third down, and I think he compares a lot to the inside linebacker that used to play for the New England Patriots, Brandon Spikes. If he can even stay on the field long enough to even produce what Brandon Spikes was able to produce. And by the way, Brandon Spikes is not in the league. No one signs this guy anymore. This Antonio Morrison is kind of becoming an outdated player in today's NFL. Don't love the pick. I give it a C+. We move on. 5th round, 155th pick overall, offensive tackle Joe Haeg out of North Dakota State. I believe I pronounced that correctly. Hopefully I did. And I don't love this pick. Not because I don't love the prospect, because I think there's a lot to like with Joe Haeg. A guy that has nice length, doesn't have great power, but nice ability to pass protect for Andrew Luck potentially. But I don't understand double dipping here. I think you could have gone with a potential position that could be a starter for you, really running back. Because running back is still a huge need for this football team. Frank Gore's getting old. You can't keep relying on him to come back and run well for you. And Vic Ballard, we talked about him a while ago. I'm not even sure if he's still on the roster. The running back position, I think, is a mess right now for the Indianapolis Colts. And there are players like Alex Collins sitting here and some other players that I can't think of right now in this instant, but other players that I think would have been a better fit here than double dipping at the tackle position, because presumably you have LaRaven Clark on one side and Anthony Costanzo on the other, and that's it. And probably for the next however many years. I mean, you hope to re-sign Anthony Costanzo. Yeah, he was a little bit down last year, but he's still a top 15 left tackle in the NFL. So you hope to re-sign him. You hope LaRaven Clark starts with you for 4 years. So when is Joe Haeg ever going to play? And in the 5th round, you still want to get a guy that could start someday, right? I mean, that's the hope to me, and I don't think they did that here. I give it a C+. We move on to the 7th round. They had 2 picks in the 7th round. First, we start with outside linebacker Trevor Bates. We question whether or not he is an inside linebacker, or outside linebacker, I should say, because I thought he'd be, I mean, he can stand up. I mean, you saw that ability at Maine. Maine runs a weird defense. I mean, they're up there in the CAA conference. Who knows what they're doing? But I question whether or not he'll be able to really stand up and rush the passer well. But I like the potential here. A little bit unheralded coming from Maine. So I like the idea of going small school prospect in round 7. I'm intrigued, and I give it a B. And we end with the 7th round pick again, Austin Blythe out of Iowa. A guy that started 4 years at Iowa, so I like hearing that. I like hearing the fact that he's a guy that was a nice leader in the locker room, a guy that was a leader on that offensive line. But again, I don't question the double dipping. I mean, I do question the double dipping. I don't know why they went back and forth, double dipping at the center position, starting with the center and ending at center. When is Austin Blythe ever going to play? It's the 7th round. I get it. But if you want a backup center, just go sign a backup center. If we're going to say this guy is never going to play, right? He better play special teams, which he's not, right? Tackles, centers are not going to play special teams unless if they're blocking for punts and field goals. You can go sign somebody off the street to do that. I like to see teams get linebackers that can play special teams, or wide receivers that can play special teams, or running backs that can play special teams, and then you can put them in for a play or two. You know, get some fast guys, get some fast corners that can play special teams, get some guys of value late in rounds, even if they're never going to play. At least they offer some sort of value than just sitting on the bench. You can go sign Luis Vasquez. You want to center, Brian De La Punte is sitting there. You can go get him. You don't need to use a 7th round pick on a center. I give it yet again a C+. I don't like the double dipping at the center position. Now here's the thing though, right? So when you look at my scale, even though I did not like the Joe Haeg and the Austin Blythe picks, it really doesn't matter that much. My GPA scale is a weighted scale. The first rounds weigh much more than the later rounds. So when I put in these grades, the Indianapolis Colts GPA came back as a 3.55 GPA out of 4, which equates to an A- and is the second highest grade I have given thus far. I don't know why people aren't talking about this draft. I think the Colts have found 3 definite starters in Ryan Kelly, TJ Green, and LaRaven Clark. Potential starters in Hassan, Ridgeway, and maybe Antonio Morrison, even though I'm not high on that pick. But again, since my scale is weighted, and since I can trust those rounds 1, 2, and 3 picks to be good, and I like them, I love this draft for this Indianapolis Colts team, because when you look at the draft, you want to get 3, 4 starters, and I think they got them here in Ryan Kelly, TJ Green, LaRaven Clark, and Hassan Ridgeway. And even though the later picks I don't love, it's probably not going to matter in the end of the day anyway. So until next time, James Carter TV, I'm out. Peace.